Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet the founder of an amazing nonprofit that's addressing the global water shortage. We'll talk about that next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, let's be honest, here in the U.S., we're all spoiled. We know when we go to the faucet and turn it on, we're going to get fresh water. But in many places around the globe, that's a luxury that they can't even imagine. Somebody who is addressing the global water crisis is Jacob Niemeier with Vera Aqua Vera Vita. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, well, let's first explain the name. Vera Aqua Vera Vita is?
It's true water, true life. It's Latin.
Awesome. And you're a strong Catholic? And
I
so
am.
I can see how this is based in your roots. Let's talk about the state of the situation right now. What percentage of the globe does not have access to fresh water?
Yeah, so we're looking at about 1/8 of the world's population, which is about 12.5 to 13%.
And how did you first discover this, shocking issue?
Well, to be honest with you, it came about on a mission trip that I went on to Haiti when I was a student at Purdue University, my alma mater. And while I was there on a student mission trip, I was exposed to the need for the first time in my entire life. I was at that point, 21-year-old kid, young adult, whatever you want to call that. And I had never known that there was so much poverty and this level of need. I'd kind of been learning a little bit about water engineering, and some of my classes focused in environmental engineering, but especially in water. So I had some objective knowledge, but then kind of seeing the subjective need firsthand, encountering that when we went on that trip to Haiti. There was a vision that I always paint for people is we're driving through the capital of Port-au-Prince a year after the earthquake that wrecked the entire country, and get to the edge of the city, and there's this big canal flowing through the edge of the city. The city itself mostly in ruins. On the other side of this canal, a big blue UN tent farm is what I would call it. Emergency tents, people are still living in these over a year later. And I vividly remember this lady walk out of her tent carrying a 5-gallon bucket, walk down to the canal flowing right through the edge of the city there, fill that bucket up with water and walk back to her tent. And I am not joking you, and sorry if you're eating right now, but I'm not joking you when I say that this water looked like chocolate milk, smelled like raw sewage, had trash floating in it, animals defecating in it, upstream people were washing their clothes and their dishes in it. And you gotta think they're probably going to the bathroom next to it. Certainly animals were doing that. Right next to the canal, there's a giant trash heap, essentially their equivalent of a landfill. And all of that was hitting me like overwhelming me because of my objective knowledge, my experiences growing up here in the States where that was never a problem, never seen anything like that. And that's when I was kind of smacked over the head by our Lord, who basically told me, I want you to do something about this. And that's where it all began.
Wow, it's such an incredible story. We also found a great overview video. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
Imagine what life would be like without the basic resource of clean water to drink, or for that matter, a regular, reliable source of clean water, or basic sanitation facilities such as a latrine or toilet. Women and children are most affected by this limitation. They are often responsible for traveling several miles each day to obtain water for their families. The time spent acquiring this basic element needed for survival is time they cannot spend learning, working, or providing for the needs of their family. Unfortunately, children and the elderly are the most vulnerable to waterborne illnesses. Despite the billions of dollars being poured into water and wastewater development around the world, the problem persists, and in many places is worsened when installed systems become non-functional and the people resort back to their old ways. Sadly, this is all too much of a reality for millions of our brothers and sisters around the world. And this is precisely why we were inspired to start Vera Aqua Vera Vita to be different in what matters to the people we are serving. To put all of this in context, I want to take a moment to tell you Manuel's story. Manuel is a man that has experienced the effects of poor water quality firsthand. He used to work for the local utility agency that manages the small water and wastewater infrastructure system in Monte Castillo, Peru. At that time, Manuel was a strong, vibrant, and healthy man full of life and energy. However, sometime in 2017, Manuel consumed contaminated water that contained larval eggs from parasitic worms that found their way to his brain and hatched, which paralyzed him until he was no longer able to walk. He subsequently lost an unhealthy amount of weight, motor skills and speaking skills were greatly impaired, and his life has been changed forever. By the grace of God and modern medicine, they were able to remove the worms, but by then the damage was already done. Manuel's story is just one of many, many stories. If a strong, healthy man can be impacted such as he was by contaminated water, what hope do the children and elderly have? And even more importantly, why is this happening in a community that has a water system in place? The answer is because the community was never empowered to take ownership and responsibility for maintaining their system, and more critically, never educated generally on proper water sanitation, hygiene, and environmental management best practices. Access to clean water and proper sanitation systems changes everything. It's a stepping stone to development. When people gain access to clean water, they can practice proper hygiene and sanitation, improving their quality of life. It is for this reason that Vera Aqua Vera Vita exists, with a mission to tap into the physical and spiritual nature of water to empower people and communities in developing countries to generate clean drinking water and sanitation solutions, so that people can flow from simply surviving to ultimately thriving. We empower people through inclusion in project decisions, selection, and general water sanitation and hygiene education and training to ensure sustainability of the projects for generations to come. We form strategic relationships with the local communities, bring technical expertise, and a toolbox of solutions to meet the many varied needs of the people we serve. At our core, we are distinctly unique in two key ways. We see the people we serve not as incapable or powerless to help themselves, but simply lacking in opportunity and education. Simply put, we see the potential in each and every person we serve. We see the dignity of Christ in each of them. We focus on both the physical and spiritual needs of the people we serve, because we believe that in order for people to reach their true God-given potential, they must be thriving in their body and soul. On earth, we are one dynamic body and we are interconnected. It doesn't make any difference where we stand on soil, replenish ourselves with water, or economically sustain ourselves. Our connection is our faith, the love of our families, and the need to live productively and respectfully on this planet. Our humanity recognizes that on this earth, many of our fellow humans face day-to-day struggles to just survive. They may encounter suffering not everyone can understand. Yet when united as individuals or as an organization, we can truly make a difference, physically and spiritually. We are capable of empowering others along the way and also sharing the hope for a better future through Christ. We can help a man, a woman, or a community to go from simply surviving to ultimately thriving. Your gift will provide clean drinking water to people around the world. A modest gift of $75 per month will bring water to 18 people every year. Together, we can provide true water, true life. Dios te bendiga!
So you formed the nonprofit in 2017. What's been a highlight for you since you've done it?
Honestly, our first project. That commenced operations in 2019 in Peru. So for me, the exposure was on that trip to Haiti, but that just kind of started the journey. And when I graduated, I moved to Dallas, and we were looking for opportunities to get the organization vision off the ground that I had kind of been planted with, that I'd been inspired to do. And some friends of mine came on a trip back from a mission trip to Peru, and they said a community had approached them saying, we need clean water. What can we do? They knew that that's what I wanted to do and what we were looking for doing. And that's where it all began. And that first project was a community of 7,000 people. We provided access to clean water for them. In 2019, pre-project, 84% of the people in that community were suffering from a chronic waterborne disease. Post-project, only 13%. That's been the greatest highlight so far.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. I'm sure glad God did a number on your heart. We're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll down the website, give us an idea of the scope of the nonprofit. How many projects do you like to take on in a year or two?
Yeah, so right now we're still a very small shop.
Sure.
It's about once every year and a half or so that we can kind of kick out a project. But we have a really strong vision. Keep in mind, we incorporated in 2017. I didn't really start getting operational with the organization until May of 2019. So coming up on 5 years since I've been full-time as executive director. Since then, we've hired 2 paid staff. We've grown our funding, and we've completed essentially an additional project, and a half of one we're nearing construction on a new project. But remember, COVID was right in the middle of what I'm talking about here for about two and a half years, because our work in Peru was basically shut down. We were really slowed, and that really affected us.
So I'm going to ask a very naive question. So
yeah.
when you're doing projects, you know that we could dig a water well here, and it's a certain number of feet, and we could be successful. I mean, I'm assuming you're not like rolling the dice saying, I hope we can do this. Do you have geologists?
Absolutely. We are as diligent as we can possibly be. Myself, I'm a licensed professional engineer with a focus, and especially, like I mentioned, in water. I'm actually licensed in Peru as well, which is a fun story and how that came about. So I bring that to bear. We bring that to bear within our efforts between our volunteer team and our boots on the ground partners and sub-consultants and subcontractors that we have in Peru. We are as extremely diligent as we possibly can, because the reality is there's kind of 2 key things that we really want to focus on: is sustainable solutions using locally sourced materials that are viable, that meet quantity and quality needs for generations to come. And then equipping the people themselves to be the drivers and operators and managers of those systems and solutions, decentralized, privatized. So yeah, if we're not going to do it diligently and do our homework up front, then really we're wasting our time, we're wasting our donors' money, and we're not about that.
Outstanding. You don't have to name your donors, but give me an idea of what a great donor looks like. Is it somebody who's already involved in the water crisis, or are you educating people all the time?
It's a bit of both. We've found really across the spectrum, the greatest success we've had with people coming on board and starting to support us is in kind of 2 categories. Catholic, because as we understand in our faith, right, that there's a lot of emphasis on this call to service, call to corporal and spiritual works of mercy, Catholic social teaching, and that's all integrated into what we're doing with Vera Aqua Vera Vita. So we really resonate with that populace very well. And we're kind of, as far as I'm aware, we are the only overtly Catholic organization doing work specifically with the global water crisis.
And do you get to go back and visit some of the projects and see what the village looks like a year later?
Every year I get to go. Gratefully, my wife allows that. I have 2 young toddlers at home, and my wife is an amazing woman. She steps up and allows me to go at least once a year. And so, yeah, of course, that's really where the reminder and the reinforcement of why what we do is so important every time we go on those trips. And I'd also add, kind of to piggyback off that final last question you just asked. So also folks in the water industry. So I come from the water industry, actively involved in the American Waterworks Association local chapter here in Dallas. And so a lot of folks, because they understand more so than most in the water industry, the value of water, and have seen kind of that need firsthand, those people tend to gravitate towards us as well.
What's your favorite kind of memory of thank you? Like they have to, the villagers have to just be blown away. Like the change to their life since you came into their life.
100%. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I've never been asked that question. I've been asked all the other questions. So I really like that question. I appreciate that so much because it's actually the first project that I mentioned earlier that we ever did in Peru. At the tail end of that project, when we were about to commence operations, they threw a big all-day party for me and our team. And there was live music and dancing, and they had an artist literally do caricature paintings of me, of me and one of the staff members at the time, our Peru Projects and Programs Director. And they presented them to us, and I was not expecting that. And then they did a collage image of some of the pictures they had from us when we were there visiting over multiple years for that project to get it off the ground. And it is just really humbling to see that. And then they invited us to go eat dinner at one of the houses. And keep in mind, this is rural, impoverished Peru. Sure. I look over, and this is just a fun story, and I'll close with this to answer your question. But I look over at this volunteer of ours, our Peru Projects and Programs Director at the time, Peruvian man, lived here in the States. He was there, and I asked him, can I not eat this food? Because I have a feeling I'm going to get sick. He said, absolutely not. Eat it, because otherwise you're going to disrespect these people. And sure enough, I got sick, but I did it anyways, and I offered it up for them. So
you're an amazing guy, and a vivid storyteller. So Jacob, in the minute or two we have left, why don't you look into that camera in the left and talk to the person who says, man, I want to get behind Jacob and help his ministry.
Yeah, the question I would ask you is, in what way, shape, or form can you do something great for others? Can you do something that is giving life, changing lives, setting people on a trajectory of change? Because the reality is we're all called to that. And it all looks different for each of us. You have a specific gift that you might be able to offer, whether that be a gift of your treasure, a gift of your time, a gift of your network, your connections, your relationships, whatever it may be. These people are needy. And if we're not advocating for them and we're not doing something for them, they're not thriving. They're struggling to survive. And together, we need to come around and give what we can to make a difference in the lives of these people, because together we can give true water, true life.
Wow. You have the heart of a pastor. I love that. That was a great way to end this segment. We're going to end with the website as well, which is veraaquaveravita.org. The great Jacob Niemeier. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
All glory to God. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.